In our Purchase or Pass segment this week, we check out a property with a few problems and downsides and work out whether the positives will still outweigh those negatives. Now, this is a 2-bedroom unit in a small block of 6, 11 kilometres from the CBD. The property is directly across the road from the beach, so you couldn't get anywhere closer to the water in Sydney's eastern suburbs. However, it is a busy thoroughfare, and there's a roundabout outside and a bus stop just around the corner. Internally, there's polished wooden floorboards, contemporary finishes, a security intercom and a large sunroom or study. And it also has a large 20 square metre lock-up garage. So, Stuart, looking at the numbers and some of the negatives to start with, the yield, $530 a week, works out about 3.5%. That can't be too hot.
Well, interest rates are the way they are at the moment. It's getting closer to it. But no, you're right. I mean, I wouldn't be rushing to it if I didn't see where the property is and what's going on. And we'll talk about the advantages in a minute. But definitely, if you just saw the numbers as far as yield to the purchase price, you'd be going to go, what's wrong with this property?
But again, you look at that ocean there, and obviously they've got the turquoise in that water, and it's looking pretty glistening out there, which is good. Now, some of the other things that weren't in the advert, the exterior building, a lot of work needed to be doing on that. There was leaking water coming through the enclosed balcony into the paint starting to peel away, and that's before we even start talking about the roundabout.
Well, I mean, this kind of property that's so close to the water is going to have issues, regarding the salt water coming into having an effect on the concrete and things like that. It's going to have issues, and a property that has close to the water, that's going to get there, and you know that.
And that's what you just got to deal with, haven't you? So again, concrete cancer. Some people, if they've never heard the term, think it's the worst thing in the world. But once you realise, and you've been around Sydney long enough, you realise pretty much every property in the eastern suburbs got concrete cancer.
Yeah, and they're getting better at dealing with it too. And you've got to look at the minutes to make sure the sinking fund has got some value in it, making sure that the building is preparing for these kind of things. So there's definitely ways of overcoming concrete cancer, but it's definitely something you should look out for.
Yeah. There's only 6 in the block, which is a good thought. So at least if you need to deal with stuff, then you've only got to persuade maybe 3 or 4 other people. So it's not as if you've got 20 in a block. So that's obviously a bit of a positive. What are your thoughts about kind of roundabouts, bus stops and thoroughfares?
Yeah, I don't run away from it anymore. I mean, I've lived in a place that had close to a roundabout and had a bus, stop not far away. Buses do stop about 11 o'clock, and they're not always coming every 10 minutes. So you've just got to make sure you look at the timetable and make sure it doesn't come every 10 minutes. It's not a bus, every moment. So there are some things there, but you've got to look outside the realms of just a property when you've got that kind of thing to consider. So, I mean, who would have thought that when you buy a property, you've got to look at the bus timetable? So you've got to look at every realm of it.
And again, because it's really the agent's job is to sell you that photo, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Sell you the beach. And this is where you've got to be the accountant kind of type and the unemotional type to say, well, OK, let's leave that aside. What are some of the other issues, and are they issues big enough to stop me from buying it? Yeah,
and we're talking about it, blue chip, good property area as far as Sydney. We're on the beach here, we're walking to the beach, we're having a good lifestyle. We've got sun aspect in the morning or in the afternoon. It's actually good property. So you've got to look at where you are and what it offers, and not only the traffic and things like that. It's not as if you've got on a highway or something like that.
Yeah. Now, we had a case probably about 2 years ago. We were developing a building, and there's tenants in there, and we actually had to cut off the power and the water. And the tenants were so keen because they love the place so much. They actually said, look, don't worry about it. We'll still stay here. Yeah. We'll even still pay full rent. And we said, no, like legally, you can't have no water and no power and the rest of it. But it goes to show, if you find the right property in the right location, tenants will do anything to rent that property. And if there's noise, they'll put up with it.
Yeah, I mean, Sydney does have a shortage of supply. But people want to live where they want to live, and they see the beautiful ocean and see the things it offers, and they get used to that kind of stuff, and they want to stay there, yes.
Now, another thing that you need to think of with prices these days, because interest rates are half what they were before, people's borrowing capacity's gone up. So they might now be able to borrow, say, 900,000, whereas before maybe 700 or 800. They've got to be careful that they're actually comparing like with like, and they know a property's value rather than paying what the bank will lend them.
Exactly right. I mean, people are kind of weighing up their options as far as what they can pay in rent, what they can pay in interest, and you're right. And both sides of a story have got to be careful what they're pricing it. So a vendor who's basically putting out there as far as putting their rent out there has to make sure that it's still affordable or comparable to what they can as far as someone's going to buy it.
Yeah. So in this case, purchase or pass for you?
Well, I said purchase, and the reason why I said purchase is I do feel that in this circumstance there may be a renter who's been there for a long period of time, and therefore the rent may not be something that's been reviewed. So, and also, I've got to be careful. I don't usually buy properties without balconies, but in this case, I did say purchase.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a kilometre beach right outside, so that's a big enough balcony.
I agree.
And look, I'm definitely not a fan of noise, as it does upset the tenants, and a high turnover of tenants reduces your income. But look, everything else is cosmetic on the problems there, so I'm still going to go for a purchase with this one as well.